Somewhere in China, around the year 850 AD, a Taoist alchemist was searching for the elixir of eternal life. He mixed together 3 ingredients he had been experimenting with: potassium nitrate, sulfur, and charcoal. He heated the mixture. His house burned down. The ancient text records the moment with remarkable honesty. Smoke and flames resulted so that the alchemist's hands and faces were burnt, and the whole house where they were working burned down. The alchemist had not found eternal life, but he had discovered something that would, over the following 12 centuries, kill more human beings than any other invention in history. He had discovered gunpowder. Today, gunpowder is inside the fireworks that light up every New Year's Eve sky on Earth. It blasts open tunnels through mountains and mines through rock. It propels bullets from firearms. And it was the single invention that ended feudalism, toppled castle walls, and reshaped the entire political map of the medieval world. 3 simple ingredients. 1 accidental discovery. How is it made, and how did it change everything? For over 3 centuries after that first accidental explosion, gunpowder remained a Chinese secret. The Song Dynasty military used it to devastating effect. Fire arrows, primitive bombs, and the world's first guns. Bamboo tubes packed with gunpowder that fired arrows at enemies. By the 13th century, the Mongols had conquered China, and as their empire expanded across Asia and into the Middle East, they carried gunpowder technology with them. By the time the Mongols reached Europe, knowledge of black powder had arrived too, and European engineers began experimenting. The first confirmed use of cannon in European warfare was at the Battle of Crécy in 1346, when the English used primitive cannon against the French. They were unreliable, inaccurate, and terrifying in equal measure, but they worked. And here is the moment that changed history forever. In 1453, the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II wanted to conquer Constantinople, the most heavily fortified city in the world, whose famous Theodosian walls had stood impenetrable for over 1,000 years. He brought the largest cannon ever built, the basilica, cast by a Hungarian engineer, so heavy it required 60 oxen and 400 men to move. It fired stone balls weighing half a ton. After 53 days of bombardment, the walls of Constantinople fell for the first time in 1,000 years. The Byzantine Empire, the last continuation of ancient Rome, ended. The medieval world ended with it. 3 ingredients discovered by accident in a Chinese alchemist's kitchen had destroyed the most powerful fortress in the world. So what exactly is gunpowder made of? The formula has barely changed in over 1,000 years. Black powder, the original gunpowder, consists of precisely 3 ingredients mixed in a specific ratio: 75% potassium nitrate, also called saltpetre. This is the oxygen supplier. When gunpowder burns, it is the saltpetre that releases oxygen at extreme speed, feeding the combustion even in a sealed space where no air exists. Without saltpetre, the other 2 ingredients simply smolder. 15% charcoal. The primary fuel, charcoal is essentially pure carbon, wood that has been heated without oxygen until all the moisture and other compounds have been driven off. The best gunpowder charcoal historically came from alder, willow, and buckthorn trees. 10% sulfur, the ignition. Step 1. Getting the ingredients. And for centuries, this was the hard part. Charcoal is the simplest ingredient. Wood, traditionally alder, willow, or buckthorn, is stacked in large mounds, covered with soil or sand to exclude oxygen and set alight. It burns slowly for days, driving off moisture and volatile compounds until only pure carbon remains. The mound is then unsealed and the charcoal collected, cooled, and ground to a fine powder. Sulfur was historically mined from volcanic deposits. Sicily and Iceland were major sources. Raw sulfur rock is heated until it melts, poured off, and allowed to solidify into pure cakes. These cakes are then ground to powder for the mix. Saltpetre, potassium nitrate, was the bottleneck that limited gunpowder production for centuries. It occurs naturally where organic matter decomposes in dry conditions, in cave floors, old stables, dunghills, and soil near walls. Medieval governments employed saltpetre men, officials with the legal right to dig up floors of any building, including private homes, in search of saltpetre crystals. The Dutch made illegal possession of homemade gun. Step 2. Mixing the ingredients, the most dangerous step in the entire process. Early gunpowder makers learned very quickly that simply mixing the dry powders together produced a substance that was unpredictable, prone to separating during transport, and often dangerously variable in its burning speed. Accidental explosions were common. Entire powder mills were periodically destroyed. The crucial innovation came in the early 15th century, the corning process. Instead of mixing dry powders, the ingredients are combined with a small amount of water or alcohol to form a damp paste. This wet mixture is then pressed through sieves as it dries, forming uniform granules. In industrial production, the three ingredients are loaded into large iron mill pans and ground together by massive iron wheels weighing up to 10 tons each, rotating slowly for several hours with water continuously added to keep the mixture moist and prevent accidental ignition. The resulting wet mill cake is then pressed under enormous hydraulic pressure, up to 280 kilograms per square centimeter, to drive out excess moisture and increase density. The compressed cake is then broken down by rollers and fed through sieves to produce granules of a controlled, consistent size. Larger granules for cannon, finer granules for muskets and rifles. Step 3. Finishing, glazing, testing, and the modern replacement. The granules are loaded into large rotating wooden cylinders and tumbled for several hours. This glazing process rounds off the sharp edges of each granule, reducing dust and improving flow. A small amount of graphite dust is sometimes added during glazing. It coats each granule, reducing moisture absorption and static electricity buildup. The finished black powder is then tested. A sample is ignited on a burning rate tester. The burning speed, measured in meters per second, determines the grade, from slow-burning blasting powder for quarrying to fast-burning grades for fireworks and pyrotechnics. Here is a crucial fact about modern history. Black powder is almost entirely obsolete as a weapon propellant. In 1884, a French chemist named Paul Viel invented the first practical smokeless powder, a nitrocellulose-based propellant that was far more powerful, produced almost no smoke, and left far less residue in the barrel. Within 5 facts about gunpowder that will genuinely change how you think about history. Fact 1. Gunpowder was invented by people searching for immortality. The Taoist alchemists weren't trying to make weapons. They were trying to create the elixir of eternal life. The key ingredient, saltpetre, was already being used medicinally. The most destructive military invention in history was discovered accidentally by people trying to live forever. Fact 2. The Chinese used gunpowder for fireworks for centuries before they used it for weapons. The first military applications came roughly 200 years after the accidental discovery. Before it was a weapon, it was entertainment, used to make noise and light during celebrations and ceremonies to frighten away evil spirits. Fact 3. Roger Bacon, a 13th century English monk, wrote down the formula for gunpowder in a coded anagram in 1267, deliberately hiding it because he believed it was too dangerous for ordinary people to know. He hid the formula. It was eventually decoded. The code he used was cracked in 1904, 637 years after he wrote it. Fact 4. The tunnel under the English Channel. The Channel Tunnel was blasted using modern explosives derived from the same basic chemistry as gunpowder. Every road tunnel, every railway cut, every mining operation, every quarry on Earth uses descendants of that accidental Chinese discovery. Gunpowder didn't just change warfare, it built the modern physical world. Fact 5. Global fireworks displays use approximately 120,000 tons of black powder every year. More gunpowder is now consumed annually in fireworks than was fired in the entirety of the Napoleonic Wars, one of the most intensive artillery conflicts in history. 3 ingredients: potassium nitrate, sulfur, charcoal, discovered by accident in a Chinese alchemist's kitchen in 850 AD, used for fireworks before it was used for war. Carried across Asia by the Mongols, used to destroy the walls of Constantinople, perfected over 1,000 years, rendered obsolete as a weapon in 20 years, and now used to light up the sky every New Year's Eve in every city in the world. The elixir of eternal life was never found, but the man who burned his house down looking for it accidentally gave humanity something that outlasted every empire it ever helped to build or destroy. Every object has a case. Every invention has a story hiding inside it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The Object Files. Every object has a case.